All right, congressional candidate and local South Lake Tahoe resident Jason Mallory in the studio. Why would you want to run for Congress? Why would you want to sit up there on Capitol Hill with those
I'd
guys?
rather snowboard, but I have a good idea, and I'm the only person in the country addressing a very big thing in the economy, and that's that technology is replacing people in the workforce.
Replacing people with what? Plants? What?
Well, no, with self-checkout machines at Raley's, the robots that build cars in Detroit, where people used to do those jobs. And essentially, we're looking at replacing probably a third to half of the employed people with robotics and other automation technologies in the next 20 to 30 years. So we could be looking at unemployment rates bigger than the Great Depression, and no other candidate is even addressing this issue. So how I'm solving this problem is through a two-step system. The first step is the formation of a Department of Robotics and Automated Labor, which is similar to what the DMV is for cars, but for robotics and automation systems, where things would be registered for existence and use. The second step is a piece of legislation that would give everyone the right to an equal vote for what technology does or does not do, as well as a fair share of what's produced. And how this works is essentially people vote for what their share of the robotic workforce does in their place. And for casting that vote, they get a share of what is produced. They get money for casting the vote, which is paid for by people renting these robotic tools on an hourly basis, the way we rent people as employees. And that rental cost going to pay for the privatized manufacture of the robots, as well as a wage to the people who are displaced. So regardless of where the unemployment rate goes, we still have a consumer base and a consumer cycle and a thriving economy, and solve it.
But the one thing I see that you're leaving out here is I watch a lot of movies, a lot of television, and I've seen a lot of movies where the robots then take over the world, and that seems to not be addressed in your overall plan.
Well,
what do you plan to do? I mean, how do we actually kick the robots' ass in the end to get the planet back?
Through giving
am I crazy here? Am I? Is this thing on? I'm crazy. How many movies are out there where you let the robots, oh, okay, you can vacuum the floor, okay, now you can build a car. Next thing you know, they're running the planet, and we're slaves to the robots.
I actually wrote a science fiction book, which I wrote as a movie, and I'm very interested in anybody who'd like to fund the production of it. I've actually got a 90%
Do the robots
offer.
take over the planet?
No, it's an individual who commands most of the labor force, who is basically Hitler in a suit, a guy named Mr. Goodwin, who controls what's actually getting done in society. And essentially, if you can control the means to production, then you control where society goes. So what I'm doing with this legislation is solving that problem, which is how they solve it in the movie that I wrote, which is giving every citizen an equal vote for what robotics do or do not perform. So like 2 weeks ago in Sacramento, we've got a 5-foot-tall robot security guard. It's on the news. And it looks like R2-D2, and it's doing security around buildings. And who's determining what is street legal for a robot? Is it allowed to carry a taser? Is it allowed to carry a firearm? What if somebody is operating it remotely?
What about RoboCop? I mean, there's a lot of questions here when you start talking about robots running things. I mean, You're gonna have people like me, call me old school, that are gonna be uncomfortable. I mean,
exactly. So I'm saying we have a vote.
None of the old people are standing in line at Raley's going through the automated checkout, right?
They don't know how to use their cell phones,
right.
But they run the country.
Right.
And I feel like we need people of my generation to be able to go to Congress, to be able to understand somewhat innately what digital technologies are doing in the world, and also be maybe the people who are going to have to repay the debts that are currently being incurred. That generation, I think, would be good to have in Congress and making laws and adapting and assimilating these technologies in responsible ways, rather than leaving them to fantasy and getting hit over the head by unemployment.
No, it's a really interesting idea that you're talking about, and something that is going to be addressed. It's a matter of time. Do you have a website people can visit to get more information about your run for Congress and the book and all these other ideas?
Sure. Go to jasonmalloryforcongress.us. You could also check out proxybyjasonmallory.com. But jasonmalloryforcongress.us, that has my petition on there. I need to get 3,000 petition signatures in order to get on the primary ballot, which is, I'm going to be in front of Safeway getting those after this.
Good for you, man. It's a great country, isn't it? I love it. Well, keep up the good work.
Thank
nice
you.
to have you in here. Thanks for
Great.
tolerating me a little bit, too.
Wonderful.
Jason Mallory, running for Congress in the state of California. I think